Episode 14.
The Ripper Crew, or the Chicago Ripper Crew, or the Chicago Rippers, or a bunch of four twats.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Christian.
This is Echo On,
a true crime podcast. Yeah, we're back with I would say one of the weirdest ones we've done, only in the fact that all the, I would say, heavy hitters, I heard of them, I know what they've done, and I look into it and I find other things I haven't heard of, but you normally know who they are. This one, we basically found them when researching just possible subjects.
Yeah, we stumbled across them and glad we did for podcast material, wish we hadn't for life.
I have literally, since Dharma, I haven't read things about what people have done and just been sickened more than I would normally be.
It's unpleasant. So they were active between, there's 4 people, they were active in Chicago. Say active that we know of, between May 23rd, 1981 and October the 6th, 1982. That's the that's all. Just like about a year and a half.
Yeah, about the same time as the latter part of Peter Sutcliffe, who was 2 episodes ago.
Yep.
Sharing in common the name Ripper, again, something that the press gave them in relation to Jack the Ripper.
Yep, they never named themselves that.
No.
They are famous or infamous for being known as like satanic killers or being satanic crimes.
Yeah, this is obviously it's in Chicago, where 3 years previous to that they had John Wayne Gacy.
Pogo,
who's a bit like Spanko but without spanking
and more murdering.
But yeah, so he was in Cook County, Illinois. These were over not just in Chicago but the surrounding suburbs. Yeah, so let's get into it. Let's get on with it. Right, so those people who don't know, which I presume most people won't, because as we were true crime fans, I thought I knew all of the sickos.
Yep.
But no, these take many crowns in this competition of sickoness.
No, I remember when you mentioned as a possible, you're like, oh, the Ripper Crew, Chicago Ripper Crew, they kind of sound really interesting. So I went home and had a look.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Well, they think they're thought to be responsible for as many as 17 women and a fatal shooting of a man as well.
Yep.
I was about to spoil where are they now, so I'm just going to gloss over what I was about to say.
Gloss over that.
So if we start with May the 23rd, 1981, Linda Sutton.
There was reports in the lead up to this before they found her. Near a motel, there was reports of a disgusting smell, and they thought it was assumed to be just like a deer, like a rotting carcass of a deer. Went to have a look, and they found the mutilated body of what turned out to be Linda Sutton. Oh, it's so disgusting.
It is.
So when they found her, they thought she'd been out there for weeks or months. Initially because of the deterioration in her body, like the insect activity and things like that. But when they looked closer, they found out that she had
was it one of her breasts?
One of her breasts was removed.
I hate to say the word. It's not amputated. It's amputated is just a medical thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know, but just say removed. I think it's probably fine. Her breast had been removed. She'd had wounds cut in her as well.
Yep.
Elsewhere.
Was it Linda Sutton whose face was caved in? I can't remember. I just felt myself feel sick of that. Probably not, but let's gloss over that part. So she was found out the back of a motel near Villa Park. She was abducted near...
Not Villa Park where Aston Villa play football, just in case anyone thinks that's where it is. That's near Birmingham. Christian's looking at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. But
no one knows what you're talking about.
Any soccer fans?
Soccer. So yeah, basically, we won't go through every single case one by one, but as we normally don't, because we're not like that.
I think we'll mention everyone we know by name, just so you have the names, because we shouldn't forget them.
Well, all right, let's just go through the victims, the major victims that we know of, and then go into
then we'll go into some things. Shall I do that? Okay, so May 23rd, 1981, Linda Sutton found outside the motel near Villa Park, raped, mutilated, and stabbed. In 82, we've got Cynthia Smith. We don't know when she was abducted and mutilated, but she did survive.
Mm-hmm.
May the 15th, you've got Lorraine, known as Laurie Borowski. She was 21. She was mutilated and killed. Don't know how.
That's basically a lot of these people, they say by unknown causes, they don't know how, mainly because of the amount of damage to the body. They don't know what was the thing that killed
Yes.
But what killed her was death.
She get killed by death.
Basically, it was well, no, it's
Who's that by? It's a song.
no clue. But no, but most because of the sheer mutilation they did to the bodies while they were alive. I'm hoping that a majority of these people died from shock and bled out before anything else happened to them, because the idea that they're alive during the whole of what they did. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, so
and then you've got May 20th, so the May 15th and May the 29th. Shemak, raped, mutilated, killed. June the 13th, Angel York, abducted and mutilated. She did survive.
Mm-hmm.
She one that was I think she was interviewed.
So, yeah.
Sandra Delaware, raped, mutilated, stabbed, and fatally strangled. September the 18th, Rose Beck Davis, raped, mutilated, and stabbed. September the 11th, Carol Pappas, possibly. They think that. So she abducted, mutilated, and killed. The death was ruled as an accident, but they think that they did it.
I think was Carol the one where not an accident, but was that the one? One of them, one of the Ripper crew punched her, and she fell back and smashed her head on the rock.
Yeah.
So they think sense. That's why that's called an accident, even though it's not a fucking accident. They were going to kill her.
They
anyway.
did all those things, but October the 6th, you've got Beverly Washington, abducted, mutilated, survived, and then you've also got on the same day Rafael Torrado and an unnamed man. Possibly they were both shot. The second man survived.
Yeah.
So that's all the people that we know of. But also within that time period, they think there's at least 11 unnamed prostitutes who were all raped, mutilated, and killed.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird from all the MOs that all these serial killers have, taking items from their clothing, things like that. These ones had the one that I've never heard of before, taking a breast. Apparently, with a lot of these, they took like piano wire kind of things, like razor wire kind of thing, and basically took one of their breasts off.
Use it as a garrote.
Yeah, basically just took their breast off. I literally don't know why or what was the no. I don't know. Like, it's so confusing.
It's so weird. So
like, I kind of like when you hear about serial killers and you go, they took an item of clothing, a piece of jewelry. I understand that as in a kind of in a divorced way. I sort of go, all right, I get what they're doing.
Yeah.
But this I don't get.
Like Robin Geck. So he said. I'm only laughing.
Now Robin Geck is the guy who's Gecked.
Shall we go through the four? I'll go through the four members actually. So the four people. There was Robin Geck.
Yeah, he was the oldest one. I think was he 8? No, he's 21 at the time.
He was in his 20s. Yeah, none of them very old.
He's thought to have been the ringleader.
Yep. Edward Spritzer. Andrew Cockeralis and Thomas Cockeralis. They're both brothers. So they're the four members of the
Ripper
Crew. It does sound like a rap group, doesn't it?
Yeah.
One time for the Ripper Crew.
No
I
times.
wish I hadn't done that.
No, sorry. Do you want me to cut that out or do you want me to leave
You're
it?
definitely not cutting that out. No matter what I say.
Fine.
I know you're going to leave that in.
Fine.
I'll probably end up being in the intro.
But yeah, so you've got like Gex was the oldest one by about, I think, 7 years. Or 8 years. He was the older than the rest of them by 8 years. The other ones at the time were, I think, Sprites was born in 61. And this was so he was about just, I think, 19. You got Thomas Cockeralis, who was 18. Thomas Cockeralis was deemed to be the simple one. He wasn't like mentally challenged or anything. He was just
I don't think that's the right word to use.
He was just a simple guy, a dumb guy. He was nothing.
But he wasn't. Yeah, like
he wasn't like
especially.
No, he wasn't like mentally disabled. Everyone's like saying it to him like he was like
kind
bless
of innocent.
Thomas.
Like
he wasn't. He's just an uneducated guy who was obviously. But the way that everyone's talking about him is that he was like kind of innocent in a way, but definitely was not.
Edward Spritzer and Thomas Cockeralis were both born in 58. Andrew Cockeralis was born in 1961 and Robert Gecht was 1953. So he was 5 years older than the next oldest and 8 years older than Andrew. I did terrible maths again.
We're doing bad math.
Yeah, so Robin Gecht anyway was significantly older, but they were all young. They were all
and they all
very,
lived
very
in the same motel. They were all staying in the same motel together, weren't they? That's where they first met, and I believe then after that they all worked for Robin Gecht's construction company.
Yes.
Construction, hey?
Construction. Who
There's-
else would work in
John Wayne Gacy, I believe,
construction?
was in construction.
He's not from Illinois, is he?
He's from Cook County, Illinois.
So here's a tidbit for you. So Gecht worked for John Wayne Gacy's construction company prior to having his own.
Now, we don't want to make it sound like, oh yeah, he worked for this company, and this company have hundreds of thousands of people, and there's no way Gacy knew him. Now, Gacy basically hired contractors to work alongside him to do it because he was he knew John Wayne Gacy well. They were actually as a colleague at least. Gacy, after he was arrested, and up until his death, always said
maintained that
he had an accomplice.
Yeah, that he didn't work alone.
People have said, oh yes, but John Wayne Gacy was gay and killing boys. Robin Gecht was straight and kills women, even though he wasn't charged with murder. We'll get into that though. But there has been a psychiatrist report of Robin Gecht saying, no, he's not straight. He's at best bisexual. What they did to women, which we will get into, was from a hatred of women, not a love of women.
Yeah.
And because he couldn't accept his own sexuality, so the likelihood of being gay is very high. And if that is the case, the likelihood of him being the accomplice of John Wayne Gacy is also very high.
Yeah.
Especially seeing as Gacy stopped, 2 years before this started officially, as in like what they know of who they killed. So you've got I don't imagine that this started, and if that's the case, then Robin Gecht was an accomplice of Gacy. I very much doubt he stopped killing for a 2-year period.
No, and it's just kind of, it's too much of a coincidence, say.
Coinkydink, some would say.
Coinkydink. I almost said that and I didn't. It's almost too much of a fuck's sake, coincidence. I couldn't think of any other word then.
Yeah.
Coinkydink. Of a coincidence to ignore the fact that within a space of a few years, you've got this guy working for this infamous serial killer.
Who was a sexually motivated
mutilator, then go on and be a sexually motivated mutilator with his own little gang of his own.
I mean, also, what they actually did, when I was saying, we went into a bit of it already, they did remove breasts, and that was an MO for all of it. But all of them, when they were being interviewed, now, Robin Gecht has never, ever admitted to killing anyone.
Denied it constantly.
He is in jail for kidnapping and mutilation of, what did he do when he mutilated her? Tried to take a breast, didn't he? He took a breast.
Yeah.
So
keep abreast of the situation.
So saying he was part of, he did had him to rights with the woman he kidnapped and mutilated and raped. But then he said he wasn't a part of the rest of it, and he had nothing to do with the murders and all that. But they were following the same MO, so everyone knows it's bullshit.
Yeah, we know that he did it.
So that's his MO. He's like taking a breast, horrifically. Now, a lot of the women that survived had that done to them, and they survived.
Yeah,
and
there's the one lady whose name I forget now. Is that
the one he was charged with kidnapping?
Was that Andrew York? Is she the one that was interviewed? There's the lady that was interviewed, and they didn't they make her remove her own breast? I think so. Her one breast was removed. The other breast was terribly mutilated.
Yep.
And
basically, because what also they did when they say mutilated, if they didn't take the breast, they stabbed them in part of their body and then raped that part of the body. So in some of the victims, I think it was with I can't remember her name. What's her name? She Mac. I think with that one, because she didn't have large breasts. She was Asian. They, instead of taking them, because there was not much to take, they stabbed her multiple times, and they took turns raping her in the wounds. Yeah, which is the most
so disgusting.
Like that, I thought I couldn't be repulsed more.
I know. For some reason, this one is really. I say for some reason. I guess it's obvious, but it's really left the mark.
I just want to I want our next one after this to be someone who just kills men in a horrible way.
Yeah,
because it's like reading all this. It's like all this sexually motivated murder that is just so grotesque.
Next time, shall we do one about like how much Bill Gates has given to charity or something?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That'd be lovely. Like no, just nice things.
No killing.
No killing. Just nice stuff.
Or let's just go with white collar crime. Like, they're tax evaders. Ooh.
We do Robin Hood, who someone stole from the rich, give to the poor.
Didn't take any boobs.
Just no boobs at all.
But then there's we have to bring up the cummy boob in the room.
Yeah. So just to reiterate, cut the tits off.
Yep.
That was not very eloquently put.
No.
Got the tits cut off or cut them off themselves. Cut wounds in their bodies and took it in turns to
Stick the dick.
copulate with the wounds.
It's difficult trying to say this without sounding flippant, but
I know,
we have to just to get over it.
Yeah, and then they would the boobs, the breasts, the breasticles that they took. They then took them back to their
to Gex attic. His hidden attic, apparently, and I still don't know how it was hidden.
No, because by the way, he was married with children.
Yeah, and his wife, he when they had sex, she had to like put needles in her boobs for him.
Yeah, because if he wasn't murdering and taking boobs, he had to then at least see them mutilated at home.
But
so
then,
they had his secret little satanic lair.
Now they only say the satanic thing came from Thomas Corcoralis, the simple one.
Corcoralis.
He basically said that they used to have satanic rituals up in the attic, where they would read from the Satanic Bible.
Yep.
And they would. He had a box. Gecht had a box full of at least 15 severed breasts. And they only took one breast off each person. It's not like they took both, so that's 15 separate women. Now they didn't.
Not 7.5.
Not 7.5
women.
No. So I think this is basically, if that is true, even though they didn't find the box,
yes,
then he definitely killed many before that.
Yeah.
But they used to apparently offer the breasts up in communion.
Yeah, that's how I read it, like a communion.
Apart from the fact that they already
so at this
raped
point,
the women and
raped their wounds, cut the breast off, taking it back.
This breast is going to have bits of jizz on it.
Yes.
Already. But they took turns to come on the breast again.
Yep.
And then take turns biting a piece off and chewing it and eating
bits of their jizzy breast.
Now, no. Like,
disgusting.
Let's divorce it from the fact that it's a piece of human anatomy from an innocent victim. Just take of what they're doing. Let's say it's a piece of bread. Or a biscuit. They're basically playing the soggy biscuit game, or ookie cookie, as it's called in America. You didn't know that, did you?
No.
Yeah, it's good. But basically, they're 4 men standing in a room, coming on something and eating it, and then saying, "Hail Satan." Oh, I'm sorry. The dickheads.
Fucking,
really?
Yeah, if you take, like you say, if you take away the terrible murder, you've just got a bunch of fucking weirdos in a loft, in an attic, jizzing on a...
Not even fucking each other. Not like they're being just like having sex and like having... No, they're just coming on something and eating each other's cum.
Jizzing on a piece of meat and then
they're not even sucking each other off. Just coming on something and eating that. But then they say, oh yes, it's all about, they were doing reading the Satanic Bible and all that. Blah, blah, blah. I've read it. There is nothing in there that says kill anyone and nothing in there that says hurt anyone. All it says is do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else and no one hurts you. That's basically
We were talking about this before, me and Christian, and because I asked a question, I said, like, was it the Levian, like the Anton LaVey, like Satanic Bible?
And
as far as we know,
read, it was.
It was. And like we said, it's like, was it do as they will kind of thing?
No, it was that, because that's one thing that was actually read, one of the quotes that was read.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't get, is that I don't get, but people read the Bible and misrepresent what's being said all the time. But that's also not that much, because a lot of what's in the Bible does back up very archaic thoughts that don't go with today's society.
Yeah, well, there's so much contradiction because there's so many individual people contributed to the Bible. You can find... In most religious texts, you can find out what you want.
Like, if you want to be a homophobe, there's something in there. You want to be a racist, there's something in there. You want to kill your wife, there's something in there.
Keep a slave, something in there.
But the Satanic Bible doesn't have anything about mutilating people, killing people, or doing anything to an innocent person.
A lot of it is about it's quite hedonistic. Yeah. It's about you do what you want to do. You want to take drugs, you want to go party, you want to go do whatever you want to do. You go do it, but don't impact upon someone else, and no one else should impact upon what you do.
And yes, there is an eye for it. Like, the only thing that is basic would go for that is a kind of, not for it, it doesn't really, but an eye for an eye. It's basically like, not an eye for an eye, it's a head for an eye kind of thing. If somebody wrongs you, you wrong them back 100-fold kind of thing. But there's nothing in
not
what
going
they were
after
doing. Innocent women.
And then
but not even innocent women. Let's say they were guilty women.
It doesn't matter. Going and just picking someone up that has done nothing to you. So and
playing jizzy tits.
But my thinking about this is that Grecht was, he wanted to do this anyway. He already had like for whatever reason, a hatred of women. He wanted to,
because he's gay and couldn't admit it because he's a dickhead.
Yeah. wanted to, disfigure them, take something off them, something we discussed earlier as well, take something that represents kind of femininity off of them, damage that bit that represents femininity, wanted to do it with other people. So how can he do it? Let's dress it up as like a kind of a cult, kind of a religious cult thing with these 3 other people.
But also there's
and
the
I
thing
can
of,
convince them to like do my bidding with me.
like, looking back at the Gacy possible homosexuality aspect of it.
Yep.
He's getting women, removing their breasts, the most obviously feminine part he could take from them.
Yes.
And instead of raping them in the vagina or anus or anything like that,
Yep.
they were creating like basically stabbing them in the stomach, basically away from that, like a kind of, it's obvious to me in a kind of way saying, no, he's literally just, it's against femininity. It's obvious that the man was gay and can't admit it. And like, that makes me 100% believe that he was the accomplice for Gacy. The rest of them, I have no idea. Like, we talked about this earlier. Let's say, like, I've known you for years, Chris.
Yes.
Now, I've been wanting to tell you something.
Okay. I'm nervous.
Do you want to go out and just abduct a woman, kill her, cut her tit off, cum in it, and then eat my cum?
Definitely
with
not.
a tit? Oh,
Absolutely not. No.
But no, like, these
How
are
do you
4
broach
people.
that subject?
I have no idea. Like, they didn't know each other for that long. They were working for him. And I mean, people have said that Gecht was a very charismatic and very imposing and threatening person, that people were scared of him. Like the people, Cockeralis and the other two, Spritzer and the 2 Cockeralis brothers, acted as if they were in complete fear of him.
Yeah, I've heard or saw in a document something, people said it was kind of Manson-esque in some ways.
But like Manson, I mean, look at a video of Gecht, or like now, or anything like that, or even pictures of him back then. There was literally nothing threatening. Same with Manson. Nothing threatening about them.
Also, you know what, though? I wonder... So the thing is, like, Gecht, he presumably... I was calling Gecht because I can never remember his first name. Robin.
Which I can't say because it's the name of one of my friend's mums.
Oh, right.
So kind of weird. Just every time I say Robin, I'm like, ooh.
Dirty.
No. Let's just carry on.
So the thing with Robin Gecht, like trying to find these people, I assume that he probably, came in contact with a lot of people, had his own little business and stuff. He must have figured these guys out as, potential kind of marks, I guess, realise they're maybe somewhat in awe of him for whatever reason, and he must have just ramped it up from there. It was like, okay, well, I'll get him involved in this. Maybe it's we'll go and sit around and I'll read my Satanic Bible, and maybe they're like, yeah, this is metal as fuck. Let's
just
do this.
Because we know they did that at the beginning, like they say, oh, this is what happened. All of them, all the people who confessed, who then retracted their statements later on, but then it was too late. None of them went into the past years before that.
No, that's the thing. We're coming in. There was nothing, and then there was these murders for like a year and a half.
It could have been ramped up over the period of a few years. For all we know, that Gecht was actually grooming these people.
Exactly
if he was
what I was
with
just
Gacy,
gonna say.
Like he could have been with Gacy for years while grooming other people. Like there is evidence that there are groups of serial killers, who work in conjunction with each other, teaching each other things, and that if that's actually a thing, then this is what it could have been. I mean, and also they do things that are very telling of people who are aware of police procedures and things, because even though he still took the breast, so that linked them, which was against this theory, but they killed them in different ways, like either beating with an axe, strangled, shot. There was never really an MO for anything beyond the stabbing. Sex.
The main thing they had was the breasts and the masturbation. Kind of thing.
I mean, virtually all of them were raped. I mean, there was whether it was post or pre-death.
The method of killing was different somewhat. Oh yeah, actually worth pointing out and absolutely horrendous that they know that I think they know in all the cases, the breasts being cut off and the intercourse with the wounds were all, they called it like anti-mortem, were pre-death.
Yes.
They know those things because of obviously they can measure the blood loss. So all these women,
were
alive whilst they were getting their breast cut off, and were alive while these men were sticking their dicks in the fucking wounds they cut in them. But it's fucking horrible.
It's weird, like one person doing it is gross enough. Taking it in turns, but like there's 4 people there. You're in on this. You're doing it. They have all had sex with this poor woman who's still alive, and then there's a 4th hole waiting for you that they've just created. No, I'm aghast. I don't know. Like, I don't even know what the question is.
This is the closest This is the closest to speechless I've ever seen Christian. He's still, bless him, managing to spit words out. But this is the closest I've ever seen him without something to say.
I just don't get it. I don't I couldn't get an erection in front of another guy if I tried.
That's not true.
That's maybe not true. Or I couldn't get an erection in front. I couldn't get an erection in front of 2 guys, let alone 3, and someone dying.
Yeah. See, I think you chose the wrong bit to start with there. I would have gone.
Maybe.
I think. Or maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, so
I know what I mean.
It's like we'll get past the sickness that we've done the horrific thing. I mean, there's people at home probably sitting there going, "Oh God, please stop."
Yeah,
we'll stop on that
awful.
bit. We'll go on to like the bits with the. I hate the fact that. Oh, I don't hate the fact, but I'm so not envious of the police in this because bear in mind they're used to dealing with horrible things, but you get to a level of horror. Now, bear in mind, this was all in the period of more or less a year. One was like before, and they probably had many before that as well. And they've got bodies mounting up, like unlike most other serial killers that take a few months in between each one and before they escalate to more. This, because it's more or less escalation from day one. And just
like we said, there was the one in May 81, and then like we don't know of any more. But the ones we know of after that is then May 82, June, August, September, and October.
And that's not including the 11 that they...
No, the 11 we don't know where they are.
Them. So that would have like almost every weekend, I imagine.
You've got 6-month period
that
we know of where at least one person was killed, raped, mutilated, raped and murdered.
But from looking at every other serial killer we've ever looked at, not one of them have ever started with it at the top of their escalation.
Absolutely not. What you're seeing there always is an apex at that point. They might progress more.
Even if Gecht was part of Gacy and involved in that, he still would have to get the Cockeralis brothers and Spritzer involved in the escalation as well.
You wonder what he got them involved in previous to that.
Maybe it was they were involved in robberies, beatings, rapes.
I'd imagine there'd be like aggressive sexual assaults or stuff like that as like a...
But the only reason that they can link all these is because of the removal of the breast and the semen at the scene, and the things that they can actually link them to it. And Gecht never said that he wasn't, like, he couldn't argue the fact he wasn't present at a lot of these things. Because a lot of them is relying on Cockeralis and Spritzer's confession, because they almost gave up straight away.
Yes.
Like basically just went, and then told them everything. And their stories were very similar. And there was a few differences here and there, but nothing of worth. But all of it pointed to Gecht being the main guy. Gecht said he had nothing to do with it. He might have been there, a witness to a couple of them, but he definitely didn't kill them, and had nothing to do with the deaths. And to this day, you can see interviews of that little piece of shit on TV, on YouTube.
Yeah.
And he's like, I never did anything like that. Everyone in the case, the judge, everyone, the papers knew exactly that he was the ringleader.
Yeah.
And that's reflected in sentencing,
which
we'll get to in the towards the end of it.
You started saying about, these police that, a lot of them, they're in Chicago, which is historically quite a violent city.
Yeah.
They're used to seeing horrendous crimes.
And especially at that era. You're talking about they've had the horror of the
70s to 80s, like for serial killers in the States particularly, it was like a real, I was going to say golden time, that's not the right phrase. You know what I mean?
For them it was. It was basically, it was the golden age of serial killers in the way. Like, when
we think of American serial killers, like say America in particular, that's the ones that you're thinking of generally are active in that period.
Next episode, we're going to be doing statistics, and we will be going over the numbers of serial killers in places. It is in the 70s and 80s, the amount of serial killers in America and worldwide was a boom. There was a sudden, it was, whether it was to do with culture, poverty, whatever the actual part, the leading influence was there. With Chicago, you're dealing with an industrial town that was basically a failing city at that time. In the late 70s, early 80s, it was a kind of a failing city. It was not a nice place.
Yeah.
Still not a nice place.
And the police were shocked by what they saw.
Yeah,
the police were still shocked after, knowing what they know. They were still shocked. And one thing that's really bothered me as well, other than the whole cutting the tits off and
I wonder where you're going with that. Other than the hole
and the holes they cut in women and had sex with was the fact. So I think this was true for all of them, but they particularly mentioned it in the first one, that Linda Sutton. When they found Linda Sutton, they thought she'd been out there for weeks or months due to the Did I say this earlier? I forgot now. During the decomposition of the body and the insects and stuff.
Yeah.
Turns out she'd only been out there 10 days. And the reason she looks so bad is because when a body is decomposing, the insects will tend to go into the nose and mouth and ears.
And it'll take a while for
and
them
they'll
to
go
work
into
through.
the place part of least resistance. Because she'd had her breast cut off, so that's a massive wound anyway, plus she'd been mutilated in other ways, the insects activity could get going really quickly. So the body was decomposed to such a state so quickly because of the mess, the state they'd left her in.
And it does mean that
awful.
the evidence on the bodies that they found was very minimal. I mean, Gecht had witnesses who survived, who could place him at as the attacker, so he couldn't get away with that. But evidence-wise, apart from circumstantial evidence and some minor evidence, it was only the confessions that really damned them.
Yeah, and those obviously, the other guys, the accomplices.
Yeah, Spritzer and Andrew
Cucurellis.
Was it Tony Cucurellis or Andrew? Whichever one. The younger Cucurellis brother. If it wasn't for their confessions, I don't think they would all have been sentenced as they were. I mean, Gecht, yes, because he had the person against him. The rest of them didn't as much.
Yeah, and it was his van.
It was Gecht's van, who at the time, one of the Cucurellis brothers was driving it. Basically, what happened is they knew that people were being abducted. Cars or vans, they used a mixture of both, were driving past women and just picking them randomly off the street.
Yes.
There might have been, one of them might have
this
been a
was
prostitute.
why there was so much fear.
Yeah. Like this one, had one woman, a realtor, or estate agent if you're in England, walking to work, getting her keys out to open it. They pull up, drag her in the car, drag her into the car and drive off, leaving, I think it was a shoe and the handbag on the sidewalk. Yeah. And it was literally that quick that it was done. Then they took her away and horror ensued.
Middle of the day in the city.
Yeah. It's literally the worst thing for a member of the public to be afraid of, because it's not like, don't go to that area of town at night. Yeah. No, it doesn't matter. Don't walk anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. Don't be a woman in Chicago, because they didn't matter for them if you were black, you were white, you were Asian, you were a prostitute, you were a young girl,
and it wasn't even about the breasts.
You were whatever. It didn't matter to them. You were
I
just
thought it would be just women who were more well endowed, who had the breasts type thing. But it wasn't. And even they killed 2 men that we know of. So there was not even a sex aspect.
They were just
fucking
violent thugs who also had a perversion.
Yeah, I mean, but then you look at the satanic aspect of it, with the younger Cucurellis brother saying it was a Satanism, blah, blah, and they're reading that, and they did find the attic, which had an altar and some things daubed on the wall, like inverted pentagrams and all that crap. But at no point was he said that there was the box of 15 breasts that was never found. I don't know, because of, I suppose it's the whole, do I believe things that I read? No, I don't anymore, because it makes you, being in this day and age, it kind of makes you numb to the actual truths unless you can see the evidence, which I suppose is kind of an atheist thing as well. But with that, I read a confession by someone, I'm not going to believe it all. Especially with the Satanism thing, it made no sense to me, but I don't doubt that it actually happened. I just don't believe the veracity of the media saying satanic killers. Because it was also at the height of the Satanist boom, where every criminal was a Satanist and beware the devil type thing, and it was all a very religious motivated.
Go home, listen to Slayer and whatever.
I mean, yes, there were crimes that happened with people who said they were Satanists and did stuff, but
I think the thing is, you're gonna find, if you're that way inclined. You're going to do it anyway. It doesn't matter what you do. They blamed it throughout history. They've blamed it on various music. They've blamed it on write-ins. They blame it on video games now. They used to blame it on the crime comics and magazines in the 50s and 40s. They'll blame it on whatever you do, and they'll find a way. And someone like Robin Thicke, Robin Grex, someone like Robin Grex, Gecht. Oh, fuck's sake, I can't get his name. I remembered his first name.
Call him Dickhead.
So the trouble with Dick Gecht is that he would have done what he wanted to do regardless. He would have found a way. The fact that he had at his disposal Satanism, which was one of the big social kind of no-nos at the time, and potentially 3 people that he could convince to do what he wanted to do with him under the guise of Satanism, was just fucking convenient for him. He'd have found another way if he needed to.
Yeah, and it's the way the media span it, constantly they're known as the satanic cult type thing, and they're known as a cult, and it's No, you got one guy using it as an excuse to impress. Maybe, let's say even he believed it. And he was, let's say it was all true and they actually 100% believed in Satanism and blah, blah. They obviously don't read because they can't read the book they're supposed to.
But Anton LaVey wanted him to spunk on a bit of tit and eat it.
I mean, Anton LaVey was not a good guy anyway.
No,
he was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But just dumb. They're dumb people. But also the kind of the cruelty aspect of it without any intelligence.
That's the thing as well. That's what's gotten me with it, and I said it before, is the absolute cruelty of they disfigured these women while they were alive. Oh yeah, I'm going all over the place as we do.
Talking of disfiguring women while they're alive, where are you going with this?
So no, the one lady who survived.
Yes.
So they picked her up in her van, in the van, and didn't they ask her to remove her own breast?
I think that's the one.
Did I say that earlier? I've forgotten if I covered this.
I think maybe, but it doesn't matter. But I think that's the one that was then testified against Gex and got him.
Yeah, because she was interviewed. She's the one that she recognised because she survived. She recognised the red van.
Yeah, she recognised the red van, and the police were on the manhunt for the van, basically. The van hunt. They were on the van hunt.
The van hunt.
They were on the van hunt, and eventually they saw a van. And I think it was the Cockerellis brother or Sprite.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because you said about the Cockerellis brother.
And they stopped it, asked him where he was. He went, "Oh, it's not my van, it's my boss's, Rob and Gecht." And they went, "Well, take me to it." Because basically the woman who was caught not only identified the type of van, the colour of the van, she also identified feathers that were hanging from what she thought was the rearview mirror. It turned out it didn't have a rearview mirror. It was just, but they were hanging by a little clip in there. When they stopped the van, they turned around and said, "Nobody hangs fucking feathers, man."
That was the.
But they were these feathers hung there. So then they said, "We'll take it. We'll get in the van, drive to your boss. We're coming with you. We want to speak to him." They spoke to him. Geck turned out he was just a piece of shit who was like, whatever you want to do, I'll help you if I want, but fuck off, And he was just dismissive and not phased.
Yeah, just didn't give a shit.
Not at all. And that has carried on since, like through his trial, through everything. He has just been a piece of shit.
The police said as well, they said they couldn't believe it. They're like, this never happens. We've got a van matching the description, looked inside, feathers on a clip. They were like, it had everything she said it was going to be there was there.
And then they looked inside the van and they found the piano wire. They found the piano wire, whatever kind of wire it was.
Yeah.
They found a whole ream of that in there, which they shouldn't have. They also had one piece of sharpened wire that was shaped with, it was like rounded with two hooks that you could basically hold as like a garrote. Yeah, it's basically like it was
shaped perfectly as everything. They just couldn't believe their luck.
They got handed on a plate. Yeah. They took after the investigation went on, they managed to find all four of them eventually through. I think the first one to go in was the older Cockerellis brother, because I think he might be the one driving it. And then he told them about Spritzer and mentioned him. They brought him in, but then they found the younger Cockerellis brother. I think he was the last one in.
Yep.
But then after the confessions they had, but the two major confessions completely recanted them, even though they just went on as soon as it went in. It wasn't like a tiny confession. It was a full, detailed, blow by blow account of everything they've been accused of.
Which also makes me think about even more so about the hierarchy of the organisation. Yeah. The fact that those guys, they were happy enough, like they're not saying they were innocent, they were happy enough to go along with it, but also really fucking eager to tell someone and get it off their chest.
But then they weren't both, the two confessions, they weren't at all the same murders, like all the rapes and murders and the abductions. That Gex was the only one who was at each one, according to them. And sometimes it was some of them. Sometimes it was one person. Sometimes it's two. Sometimes it's three. Sometimes it was four. It changed as to when they were. So it's like it was. I think I said this to you earlier. It was literally someone like Gex calling someone up and going, "Hey, you want to go out tonight?" And I'm going, "I can't. I'm watching TV.
I'm going to raping. Anyone want to join me?"
Not tonight. I bet you ask my brother. Hey, you want to come? You want to go rape and kill a woman? Yeah, he's up for it. But it's literally. I imagine it was that dull.
He was going to go do it, and anyone want to join me?
But I imagine it was like talked about amongst them, because bear in mind it's such a big thing. It was done like that dull. Like, do you want to go down the pub?
Yeah.
Like, why not? I'll do it tonight.
Well, like when we finish up here, like me and Christian, be like, when we free for the next recording session, they'll be like that. They'll get their little file of faxes out or something, and be like,
and go, I'm up for that. Date. Oh no, so why not? But then it's ludicrous. It is ludicrous because a lot of the ones, even like some of the other heavy hitters that do such sickening things, like Albert Fish's, the Dharmas and things like that.
Albert Fish. Yeah. We weren't going to cover him because he's so famous and well known, but I kind of feel like I want to talk about him at some point.
Mainly because I just want to talk about the X-ray.
And then exactly that. That's the picture I have in my mind.
That's all I care about. And then
never talk about him ever again.
But it's kind of this kind of thing. we do talk about these things, but what's good is it's kind of cleansing because we research them, we talk about the disgusting things they've done, but after it's done, never fucking bother about them again.
No.
Never have to talk about them, never have to think about them. We'll only talk about them in reference in a future podcast.
Yeah.
Like occasionally I say the word Belfield. I ain't going to go into what he did. It's fine. It's all done.
Although I have been, to be fair, like at work sometimes someone will mention something true crimey and then I'll chime in.
Did you know?
I'll chime in with a little bit of an anecdote, a bit of information, and find myself being stared at 4 or 5 minutes later. I'm like, oh shit.
And then you just hand them a business card.
Yeah. Give them a pin.
So that they are awful, awful people. The court case is, I think, very telling of what was truth and what could prove to be truth, but is also quite a dangerous precedent. That Gecht there was no evidence that he killed anyone, apart from 2 confessions, but they had no actual evidence to charge him. So he was only charged with the abduction, mutilation and rape of the last lady that was that survived. So that was what he was done for. But his sentence was longer than everyone else's. He was given 3 60-year sentences and 1 30-year sentence, 210 years and old. He's not going to be up for eligible for parole until 2042. Now, you look at Andrew Kokoralis, death sentence given. Spritzer, death sentence given. Thomas Kokoralis, the younger one, was not. I think he was given a lesser sentence. But still, I think he was like given I think he was given 80 years.
I guess we'll go into the details.
We'll go into what happens to them, but I think up to the case it was. But they were given that. That was the thing. But he was given really if you think
knew who they were talking to, didn't they?
Because the fact he could be given 60 years, not 210, 60 years. Like if you think about what people would normally be given for abduction, rape, and mutilation without killing them, it wouldn't be 210 years. They obviously knew what they were doing. But the thing I said about it sets a dangerous precedent. Is that what happens if, I know we have no, but what happens if he wasn't involved?
Yeah, I know what you mean, like, because his face fit into what they wanted.
What happens if what they said, maybe it was the Kokoralis brothers and Spritzer, were bullshitting and just...
Imagine if Tommy Kokoralis wasn't the village idiot.
In the world of infinite possibilities, like I'm taking the truth as to being what I read and what I've seen on documentaries. We don't know. Everything we read in and watch documentaries of is just, a 100th hand of what anyone else has said.
We have to take the fact that like everything we read and see has the same story.
Yeah.
That's the best we can do.
But then, the dangerous precedent I'm talking about, as I said, we in another case, Thomas Kokoralis could have been the ringleader and Gecht could have been someone who refused to take part and then just did another crime separately, but they believe he was, so then just give him the highest
he could have been railroaded into making him use his van and making him use his house.
So they gave him literally the maximum sentence for every single thing he was accused of. I
say railroaded. That sounds like he's innocent, and I don't think he is.
Oh, he's not 100%.
They threw everything they could at him, knowing that he had done all the crimes.
I mean, he didn't. It's not like they gave him something that they couldn't. Like they literally gave him the maximum sentence for every crime he was up against. It wasn't like they invented stuff. But if you look at anyone who's got very few people are given multiple maximum sentences for multiple acts that they're being accused of. They get given because not mitigating circumstances, but you'd look at it and go, well, you're going to be in jail till you die anyway.
Yeah, they'll pick and choose, and they'll be like, well, we can get him on this, and this. There's no point in trying him for all the others because it's just going to put all the families through the trials separately. It's going to put them all through all of this. He's never going to leave anyway, so we'll just...
And it also looks at, actually mitigating circumstances like intention or opportunity. Like if it's planned... If somebody has planned out exactly what they're going to do, then they do it. They get a higher sentence than an opportunistic one. Yeah. And this, by all accounts, was opportunistic.
Also, another reason they don't try everyone for everything is because if they get found not guilty for these, the double jeopardy. If they tried them for all of them and got found not guilty, they wouldn't be able to try them again. Because if they choose we're going to do numbers 1, 2, and 3. And they get found not guilty, they're like, right, we're going to charge you for 4, 5, and 6 now, and then 7, 8, and 9 later, and the double jeopardy law doesn't fuck them over.
That's you can't put anyone on trial for the same crime twice.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that's why things like O.J. Simpson, in the court of criminal law, he's found not guilty. The civil courts found guilty.
Well, because if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Yeah, it's a weird one because
this is horrible.
But also, the thing about this is that it's so disgusting and so abhorrent and everything they're doing, and actually is impressive in the amount of horror that is involved in it. but so little is written about it. And we found 2 or 3 documentaries that are on YouTube.
I said to Christian, like, you found any good documentaries? Because the ones I've seen are a bit, they're not that deep with the information. And he sent me back links to the ones I'd already seen, so that was clearly all we could find.
Everything, like, I couldn't find. There is a book about it, but I didn't have time to order it.
Yeah.
But I did print out a shit ton of stuff from everywhere. From I hate doing anything from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Hate it. But I went through there wasn't much.
No.
Wikipedia entry's tiny, so I just went to the references, printed that stuff. Murderpedia, the usual kind of places. Google, news reports, Chicago Tribune articles. But it's all it's not much. And I thought that for this there would be a lot.
Yeah, with the number of victims in such a short amount of time, the acts that they did onto these women,
the fact
while they were
them.
still alive, the fact there was a group of them, the fact they was potentially allegedly satanic. Very little. I pulled a face in. I realised you can't see me putting a face on the microphone. Very little. Like, this seems ripe for like a real in-depth look into it.
I mean, the most they've done, they've taken the idea of the Ripper Crew and put them in episodes of like Criminal Minds and had an equivalent thing. But it's weird that that's all it's come to. Like, I believe that this subject, even though repulsive, is extremely enthralling. Only for the fact that it's the fact they've been caught like that. Like, I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, the guy Jamie Asuna, the guy who killed his bunkmate in prison and beheaded him and all that. And he's in an interview said that he was taught by another serial killer and he's part of a cabal kind of thing. That when that was said, it's a big thing. As in, like, no, that can't happen. This is proof. There's a group of people doing the most despicable things. I mean, it's like when the Manson murders happened, the fact that there was a group of them in their group, but then like blindly following the leader and doing the most despicable acts.
Yeah, like this is
like
very
that
much
is such news.
It's cult behaviour, isn't it? And this one is very much like cult-like behaviour.
But I think actually a lot of the problem here is pure media error, because they're called the Ripper Crew. Yeah. It makes it sound like the worst rap group in history. Like white kids trying their best to do rap, failing miserably, going, yo, we're the Ripper Crew, and just being terrible.
I'm rapping.
Basically that.
That's exactly how I would rap.
But that I think is a problem, because when I read the Ripper Crew, I went, oh, they're going to be shit. And then dismissed it. And then when I only looked at it when it said the Chicago Rippers.
I kind of assumed they were going to be, because it was the Chicago Ripper Crew, I kind of thought they were going to be like an organised crime group, to be honest.
Like hitmen, or then they killed them.
Which is kind of interesting, but not out of the ordinary necessarily. Yeah,
I thought there might be Iceman-like. They're maybe the assassins who go too far and dismember hence the Rippers. But no, it's just, I think if they were given a more media enticing name that make people go ooh, like sort of the Boston Strangler, the kind of thing that's actually sounds like more horror than the Ripper Crew. I mean, it just sounds stupid, and I think that it's weird to say, but I think that's actually a reason why it wasn't picked up by the world media.
It's so weird. I can't understand why this wasn't picked up.
I mean, think of Gacy was picked up because he was a clown. Yeah. Gacy wouldn't have been picked up that much if he wasn't a clown. Dahmer was picked up because of the sheer horror of what he did. Geen as well. Ted Bundy was picked up because he was actually a good-looking guy who was charismatic, which was unheard of in people's perception.
He was noticeable because of it.
Yeah.
He wasn't a wallflower.
But then you look at someone like Ramirez, anyone who has a dog telling them to kill people. Like, there's bits of different subjects that are...
That wasn't Ramirez, was it? That
wasn't
Ramirez.
That was
Son of Sam. That was Berkowitz.
Yeah, I was just going...
You're thinking of different Marilyn Manson
members.
Yes,
I am. And Twiggy, yeah. But no, you've got different serial killers who have different traits that are picked up by the media, and that's why I don't get why this wasn't. It's so horrific. Granted, they couldn't talk about it in newspapers a lot, but it's such a horrific thing, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. I don't think there's a movie about it or
yes,
anything.
it's the early 80s, but then that makes it more palatable to be told now.
Absolutely.
Because we're sitting in the south of England in a middle-class flat. My dog's asleep somewhere. The sun's shining.
There's literally birds are singing outside. Singing.
Nothing's wrong. Everything's great. And we're talking about Chicago in the 80s and people being abducted.
Yeah, why is no one else talking about this?
But I think if they were given a more media savvy name that would actually pique the interest more of people, I think it would have been brought up.
Perhaps. And also, like you said, maybe, although I don't know, because of what they did was so disgusting, that it couldn't be reported on, the details couldn't be reported, so people just don't know.
I mean, they were called the slashers. I mean, basically, the crimes are called like in the Chicago Tribune articles. They say slasher Robin Gecht.
Yeah,
but maybe they didn't. But also maybe they were so appalled by it, they just didn't want to talk about it more. Nobody wants to talk about it because it is so abhorrent and inhuman. Sorry. So every single serial killer is inhuman in a way. But then you get to the sliding scale of how inhuman can they get, and at some point you go, nobody can get worse than this. But every day you get surprised. And
I know. So we've just recently recorded an episode on the Yorkshire Ripper.
Yeah,
and we thought, because what he did was disgusting, and there's certain bits of that case where we didn't realise about putting pieces of wood up inside their
vaginas
and stuff like that. Things like that, and then it was like so disgusting, and we were like, "Oh, that's so gross." And then we're recording this one now,
and it's like,
and you're like, "Oh, this is even more disgusting," because
I mean, it's obviously nothing is as worse as taking the life. We're not saying, "Oh no, these." Well,
it's not a sliding scale of like, "Oh, if only." Yeah, you think you got it bad? You should have been in Chicago in 1982.
They're not up in heaven saying this.
No, it's not. We're not saying that. It's both are disgusting. Everything's fucking awful.
It's the power to discuss
but it's
us.
That is it. It's.
I have seen a lot of horror films. I've seen a lot of documentaries. I've seen a lot of crime scene photos. I've read a lot of crime scene stuff. But them standing in a little shitty attic with badly painted inverted pentagrams on the wall, reading from the Satanic Bible, jizzing on a dismembered breast, and then taking turns eating each other's cummy boob.
It's so disgusting.
It sounds like a joke.
It would be funny if it wasn't real, yeah. It's fucking awful.
Well, let's just go on to where are they now?
Where are they now?
Right. Well, Robin Gecht is still serving his jail sentence.
Oh, that's Robin Thicke, sorry.
And he is still maintaining his innocence.
Yeah, wanker.
He's also, there's places online where you can buy his autograph or buy pieces of his art.
Oh.
You can buy. He responds to pen pals.
Oh, I just remember something else about Robin
Thicke.
Yeah, Robin Thicke.
Yeah.
One of his excuses as well for the mutilation of their tits is that he comes from a long line of tit men.
Were these a long line of men who ripped tits off women?
Well, no. What he said is a long line of men who married women who had big tits.
So
if you're from a family who go like, "Oh, I've got a predilection towards large-breasted women," obviously the natural 3 generations down the line is you just want to cut them all off. I just wanted to put that through his.
Do you know what I love?
His fucking excuse. I didn't kill him. I just mutilated a couple of titties, and it's not my fault. My granddad liked big tits. That's stupid.
I love MacBooks.
Yeah,
love them. Do you know what I like to do? I love to buy one, then smash it.
Yeah.
No one. What the fuck? No, that's the worst excuse ever. Surely it should be like, I'm from a long line of men who despise breasts.
Yeah.
Like Gecht, who's basically said that, who's saying like, no, it's just my family are all a tit men, so therefore I destroyed them and then fucked holes in the body. Normal. But no, he denies that he killed someone still to this day. And there's a few interviews online. That little piece of shit talks about it. He's so unimpressive. He's just you expect the Ed Kemper kind of thing, the intelligent monster who's like a giant. No, imposing, little scrawny piece of shit. You've got Andrew Cockerales.
Yep.
And Spritzer, Edward Spritzer, were both given death sentences.
Death sentences.
But Andrew Cockerales was killed by lethal injection.
Yep. He was. Oh no, go on. I'm gonna say Andrew Cockerales. Yeah, he was put to death by lethal injection. He was the last person in Chicago to be put to death.
Yes. But yeah, then you've got Thomas Cockerales, the younger brother, who was given 80 years. He's given
70 years.
70 years. He's given that, which is also known as the natural life prison term.
Uh-huh.
But he only served half of it, and he was released in March.
Yeah, March 2019, he was released.
I'll release a picture of his face just because I love this picture. He actually looks like a spud.
Yeah.
He looks like a little potato that somebody's drawn a face on. It's Mr. Potato Head. But when I was saying earlier on, we can't call him simple. He obviously wasn't. No, he looks like he eats the soles of his shoes.
I love jerky.
Yeah.
That's your shoes again, Thomas. Edward Spritzer, you mentioned, he got given a death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happened?
Then they abolished the death penalty and they commuted him and 15 other people on death row to life sentences.
So he got 6 life sentences plus more than 400 years for crimes other than murder.
Yes, it was basically the Governor George Ryan in January 11th, 2003 cleared out Illinois' death row, commuting all the life terms to life term sentences, and ended that. So he basically gave clemency for all. In all, he commuted 164 death sentences during his time there, and they were all commuted to life in prison without parole.
Yep.
So theoretically, Cucurales could be in jail longer than Gecht.
Absolutely. If he lived long enough, he'd be in prison longer.
Yeah, but there is after
Clemency for all. You get a
Clemency
clemency. You get a clemency. You get a clemency. Just Oprah there. You get a clemency.
But then Thomas Cucurales on March 29th, now 58 years old, was released from prison, transported from the facility in west central Illinois to an undisclosed location. I imagine it was to a vegetable patch where he was buried again. Because, as I said,
He's got little
like
tendrils growing out of him trying to reach the sun.
But yeah, so there's that's what happened to them. I don't know what happened to, obviously, the surviving victims. A couple of them have done interviews, but after something like this, it's hard to go on with your life, like as in like normal. You can't, like, doing an interview. This is something like some victims will be able to relive traumatic moments as a cleansing thing, as a kind of to try and get over it.
Yeah.
Not that you can never get over it, but this kind of thing, some of these women
face it and deal with it.
Yeah, some of these things it's difficult to face, but that's where are they now? I would love to say they all died.
They're all fucking alive still.
They're all alive. I mean,
and one of them's out.
One of them's out. I mean, he served 30 years?
35, I think. They said he
years.
did half. Yeah, that's about right.
He served a long time. I mean, but they know he was responsible for the killing of one of them. Thomas Cucurales was guilty for Bukowski, I think her name was. This is all my papers. It was back in 80... Oh, yeah. The jury convicts Thomas Cucurales of killing Borowski. Borowski? I don't know how to pronounce that name. But yeah, so he was literally, he did do the final blow. Because that was the one where she was punched in the face.
Oh,
I think that was the one where she was punched in the face and fell back and...
Accidental.
Yeah, so he was guilty of her murder. I think it was deemed accidental murder, and hence why he was not given a life tariff.
Yeah. By the way, though, she was still brutalised.
She was still, afterwards, completely... but during, it was... No, it wasn't. That was afterwards, because I think the punch was the first thing.
Because I accidentally killed her.
Yeah, and to bear in mind that how hard the punch was, it cracked her front teeth. Like, that made me really, when I heard that, went, oh, God.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's just like...
I don't recommend cracking your front teeth. It's horrible.
So, yeah, that's where are they now? Maniac factor. Normally, if you've got more than one person, you should separate them, but no. Maniac factor, I'll give them all up. I think it's Gecht, it feels like I'm rewarding them if I give them a 5. But
like a 5+.
Yeah,
I feel like they need a new grade.
What they did is a 10.
Yeah.
Them as actual people, and if you look at the pictures, they don't even 0. Look at them.
Like 5, but they don't deserve it. That's not right. You know what I mean.
Oh, and let's. I'm just going to give you a quote by Edward Spreitzer. A black female was picked up, blindfolded and gagged. Robin shot her point blank in the head, put chains around her neck and legs attached to bowling balls and threw her in the water. I understand that body was never found.
Oh my God.
So bear in mind that for things like this, during the confession, they did confess to more, but they couldn't find bodies.
Yeah.
So when we talked about earlier, like escalation, 100%, they definitely killed more people. If Robin Gecht ever gets out of prison, I've got no doubt he will be hunted down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fucking horrible.
Like the victims who are still alive. I mean, there's no one. Like there was one woman who went to go see him in prison, and has come out and basically she was a documentary maker, and she writes books, and she said that he's the most unimpressive, just pointless waste of a human being.
Oh, that's interesting.
So he is. I'll put a link to one of his interviews. It's only a clip, but you'll see how much of a dickhead he is. Anyway, that was a disgusting episode.
It was disgusting. I hope you found... I was going to say enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting at least. Like
I mean, I would say look into it. There isn't much.
Yeah, this one has limited resource compared to some of the others that we've looked at.
Yeah.
There's not as much, but please, have a look on. There's some bits on. There's some articles about them. There's been a little bit of renewed interest because the one that was released.
But also, as a side note and a little advice, If you ever are looking for a job or wanting to hire a construction people, stay away from PDM contractors. Their owner, Mr. Gacy, hires some disreputable people.
Yeah, questionable.
All right then. Well, see you guys later. Please do share our stuff around. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies, tell everyone, tell a stranger. But make sure you're polite and don't jump out at them and go go on, because that's
weird.
That's just weird.
That's very weird. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's why we. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, please give us a like, give us a listen, give us a share. Obviously, listen, tell your friends. You can find us on all social media at Echo On Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And
yeah, I mean, we'll before we go to the end here, we'll leave you with an advert for one of our fellow podcasts. We're going to sprinkle these through a few episodes now and then. If you've got your own podcast and you want us to throw a promo in our episode,
please.
Just ask. If you've got any ideas of episodes, just let us know.
Yeah, let us know, please.
Bye then.
I've been Chris.
I've been Christian.
And we've been Echo One.
Good night.
I'm Michael, the host of the semi-monthly podcast In a City Like Yours. Join me as I chat with interesting people with interesting life stories. You can listen to the podcast on all major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. You can follow us on Twitter at IACLYS Podcast, as well as on Facebook and Instagram at In a City Like Yours Podcast. Please feel free to let me know what you think and keep coming back for the many interesting stories in a city like yours. This podcast is part of the Michigan Sports and Entertainment Network.